So how we're gonna do this is I'm gonna do it again, and then we're gonna dive in. And we just got 2 more of these role plays, so stuck it out, especially after we eat. I know it could be tough, but hey, you do the stuff in life that's hard, life will become easy. We're doing the hard stuff now, so we're not bleeding in front of the customer. Because there's a lot of bloodshed in that office, and there's actually hardly any, because we're not trying this stuff. We're not trying to bleed in front of the customer. Okay, so how we're gonna start this process is assume you went over your products already. You're just gonna get used to defining the different columns and then jumping in. The customer's gonna say no. And after I do that logic breakdown, customer's gonna say no again. So if you turn your sheets, you'll see a sheet that has these numbers that I worked on, and you're gonna use that as a cheat sheet when you build it. So keep turning. You see an objection handling. Yeah, probably close. There you go. There you go. So that's gonna show the breakdown. Yeah, you got a big sheet there. Keep going, closer to the end. Yeah, turn a few. Yeah, there you go for that. There you go, this one here. So turn it this way. Booyaka, booyaka. So when you're doing the numbers, do write them down so you're used to it. Don't just read the sheet, write them down so you're used to it. Again, you're gonna feel choppy, but you have the theory, and once you nail it, it's gonna be good. Okay, so I just presented you all the products. So now I'm gonna define the packages, ask you, you're gonna say no. I'm gonna break it down, you're gonna say no again, and then you're gonna say yes at the final one, because we're not trying to play five car bad custody. We're trying to make sure you get the flow, knowing that you could navigate when the customer says no to a real dealership, but it's hard to cover every objection you're gonna get. It's impossible. Okay, awesome. So we just finished going over everything. There's 3 different programs. The first one's called the Gas and Go. Honestly, you put gas in the car and drive. It gives you that 7-year coverage. Remember I said key back with the roadside assistance and stuff, covers your maintenance. Your road hazard you have for the tires we spoke about, that full rust paint fabric undercoat, and that rock guard, okay? Next one's a necessity. It's pretty much similar to the Gas and Go. The only difference is you have 6 years instead of 7 years, which honestly your loan's for 6 years, so at least majority of your loan's covered. You have the road hazard. Tires are just expensive, we know. Instead of the full environmental items, you have the exterior, which is the rust paint undercoat. And honestly, that's where most of the resale value is anyways. And instead of the full rock protection where you get the hood, the mirrors, and the bumpers, we just got the hood and the mirrors, because honestly, those are the high areas that get impacted. And last but not least, the essential, I feel like it should be called the must-haves, because you know your 5 years coverage and you have that 3 years coverage. This just puts it all together so you're not guessing what's covered and not covered. The road hazards not included in here, so you just have to self-insure yourself. If you got any issues with the tires, just replace them on your own dime. Appearance, you choose any of the 2. Could be rust undercoat, you choose. And the last one, at least with stone, you can cover the hood. Okay. So once you make a decision on one of these options, I'll get the rest of the documents ready. While you're doing that, I'm just going to prepare some information for the vehicle.
Mike, this all sounds great, but again, I do have a budget. I know my payments are about $690 right now, so pushing it to 800 or 780, 740, 749 is above my budget, unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay, I totally I hear what you're saying. So it's nothing I said, right? It's not like the products didn't make sense. It's more that you wanted to stick to the 690, if I'm hearing you right.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Oh, you know, that makes sense. You're smart. Smart people have budgets. I mean, when I go to Costco, especially these days, if you don't have a budget, you're leaving with one of those big carts. So it totally makes sense. Remember earlier I talked about transparency, though? That's one of the things. People are leaving what they want a payment to be the same every month, and then they find out when you look at all the things you have to consider when buying a car, that payment often gets skewed in ways that affect you. Do you mind if I kind of share you how to prepare to at least manage that a little better?
Of course.
Do you think anyone's going to say no? They won't, unless they're crazy. Okay, so because you're rooted in care, you're rooted in education, you're not rooted in the solution. You're not trying to get the solution, you're trying to make sure they understand the problem. If you do, don't worry about the solution. Okay, so I'm going to draw this here because it's the easiest way for me to share it with you. Now, your payment is $690, and if I understand right, you want every month $690, $690, $690, $690? Okay, so this is where I really got to step in and make sure I explain, because that's actually a variable payment, and I'll tell you why. It's like your term is fixed, your rate's fixed, but the reason why it's variable, because it's always changing. I'll tell you what I mean by that, but in the industry, we call it exposed payment. That's a way for me to deliver that hard word without scaring them and saying, but industry, we call it exposed. Ooh. But for you, it's variable. And I'll say, and once you do it, you get cute. right? Here's how you get cute. I'll say, like, for instance, is your mortgage a fixed one or a variable?
Fixed.
Okay. Do you know people who had variable mortgage?
Yeah, my brother.
What happened to his rates?
Surprises all the time.
That's why nobody is looking for that. If you ask customers, you have a fixed or a variable mortgage? I have variable. What happened to you the last little bit? And that's why we thought it was fixed and it changed. So that's why I want to explain that. So the reason why is because when buying a car, that 690 just covers the vehicle. There's other things to consider that when we actually put apples to apples, you'll get to see why you want the manufacturer to pay for this stuff rather than you. Now, at the end, the manufacturer has deeper pockets, and I'll show you what I mean. When buying a car, there's a few things you have to consider. One is your oil changes. Okay, that's required 2 times a year, and that's $150 each time, so a total of $300.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I like to do is put them towards your payment, so you see what your actual effective payment is when you consider that. So if you divide it by 12, it shows you how much it affects your payment in a year, and that is $25. Now, I always say use your calculator when you're doing this, because the customers see real numbers calculating. They don't want to see no fast machine here. Okay, that's $25. So when you add it here, plus 25, you're actually paying $715 in theory. And the reason why I say theory is because you'll never have a $715 payment. What's going to happen is when you have that oil change, you're still having that monthly payment, plus you have that $150 that month. So you'll see that 2 months out of the year, $150 equals $840. I like to draw it out for them because I'm showing them change in theory, change in practical. Change in theory, change in practical, because all they're seeing is change, change, change. But if you just talk about the one and not this, then they don't get that impact as much. Okay? And I know it's not much, but as you could see, transparency is important, but at least you could budget for something you know about, right? What else might you consider? I'm not going to talk about everything because the idea is there's so many things to consider, but one thing that's real is you're buying a car with advanced tech. I told you it's like 30 cell phones. So are you going to run into an issue? Well, I will say people should budget for one because when it comes, it comes. You can't maintain electronics. When it goes like our cell phone. So you want to plan for it. Now, I'm not going to talk about the screen or the mitigation system. Most of the technology is big ticket items. I'm going to talk about something very minor, so at least you could have some sense of what this is leading to. Minor could be a seat module. Depending, I had a couple come in. One was 6'4", one was like 5'9", but they needed it to adjust, so they had to get it fixed. Well, that's about half a day work because they got to diagnose it, get the part, install the part, do the checks. That's about half a day. Now, our shop opens at the back for 10 hours, so half a day is about 5 hours. So that's about a minor repair. Now, how do you calculate a 5-hour job? Well, it's easy. Our labor rate, thank goodness, is at the back. It's posted by law. It's $185 an hour, $185. Now, a lot of people are like, man, that's a lot of money. Last year, 2 years was $150. Yeah, it does go up every year. It's the nature of it. But parts is the big change. Parts is approximately double what labor is. And why? They're not fixing stuff, they're replacing it. So when you take 185 times 2, that equals 370. Siri, sit down, Siri. I like to put them together in the sake of transparency. So you're paying $555 an hour times that 5-hour job. What does that mean? That's $2,775. Now, what does this mean? Any given year, you get a repair. Earlier, I was talking about 2,000, but I'm breaking it down so you can actually see the real number. Any given year, you get that repair, and you want to know how it affects your payment for that full year. You take that 2,775 divided by 12. That affects your payment $231.25. So you're already paying $750 in theory when you consider that stuff, plus the $231. Well, your payment ends up being $946, just considering those two items. You'll never have a $946 payment. You always see the $690, but it's like smoke and mirrors because that $690 you're going to pay plus that average repair, $2,775. So you notice that you're going to run into months where it's like $3,400 just for a minor thing, what you thought was minor.
And that's just car only.
And well, when you consider this, is the $690 just car only, but that month you still have to pay your car payment, and if you have a repair that month, well, you add them together, that would be your total amount you pay that month. You better hope you don't get an oil change done that month because that would just drive it up. So when you look at this, do you still prefer more of a variable payment, or does one of the fixed ones look better for you? And give me a no again somehow.
Well, you put it that way, I see what you mean, but like I mentioned to you, I can't go home with higher than $690. Mike, wife is gonna make me sleep on the couch.
Hey man, key to a happy life is a happy wife, man. No, well, why don't we just do what you said? I'm gonna draw a line in the middle. This here's the more the appearance/resale value of the car. This is the stuff that's going to make you sleep at night. Okay? So why? The mechanical, if your car's being fixed, you have to pay it anyways. Again, it doesn't discriminate. You either pay an ounce of prevention or a pound of cure later, and a lot of people like to minimize it so they should have that fixed cost. Your maintenance is always going up every year, so this way you lock it in. And those tires you need to drive anyway, so your payment ends up being $714 when you consider this stuff. While we go ahead and register that stuff so you can have a happy life, happy wife. And then we're gonna stop there because we could go forever, but the idea is for you to get the platform before you play around with it.
Yeah.
And where would I go if you said no again? What would I do?
Probably just stick to maybe the warranty and maintenance.
Exactly. So say yes on this one, on the second one, just so I could show you what else to do. So say we figure out some of you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think 714 was comfortable.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, makes sense. Ooh, you know what? For the extra $6, why don't we go ahead and register this paint protection? See how you go for the extra one? After you solidify it, okay? And the customer says yes or no. If they say no, drop it. If you feel like you could handle objection more and talk to them more, do it. But it's not a fight situation. You're seeing how much you could stretch them to be protected. And then again, okay, so I'm just gonna do up your paperwork and we're all done. Oh, shoot. Remember that? Oh gosh, remember earlier we talked about that area where you didn't have coverage in? Like you said that this, you didn't have critical illness and accidental health. By the way, the bank has it secured in this payment.
Oh.
Yeah.
In that case, that makes sense.
Bob's your uncle. Okay? So again? Mwah. That's what we're gonna leave with.
Yes.
Okay, so now obviously it's gonna take some practice, but could you see how that's a better way to work with your customer? So when they say no, you're not, oh, they say, oh, I get it. You're like everybody. We're all the same. So it's all about the relating.